All right, today we are diving into a really dramatic 2,000-year-old prophecy. It comes from the book of Revelation, and it describes the sudden, complete collapse of this global power known only as Babylon the Great. So let's unpack what that could possibly mean. But first, just think about this for a second. What if the entire global economic system, everything, trade, finance, all of it, just collapsed? Not over a year, but in a single hour. It sounds like the plot of a disaster movie, right?
Well, that's exactly what this ancient text we're looking at today describes. Revelation chapter 18, it paints this incredibly vivid picture of the fall of a mysterious power called Babylon the Great. And when it falls, it sends shockwaves across the entire planet. But the big question is, what is this Babylon?
And that brings us to our first big question. Is this prophecy talking about a literal, physical city, maybe a rebuilt Babylon in modern-day Iraq? Or is it a symbol for something much, much bigger? So, to get our heads around this, the source commentary we're using points out something really crucial. It looks like there are actually two Babylons in Revelation. In chapter 17, you have a religious Babylon, which is pictured as a harlot and is destroyed by political powers. But what we're focused on today is chapter 18's commercial Babylon. This one is symbolized as a great city, and its problem isn't religion, it's greed and self-indulgence. And it isn't destroyed by people, but by a sudden act of God. So while some people do think this could be a future literal city, the commentary we're drawing from really lands on a symbolic meaning. This quote from Barnhouse puts it perfectly. Babylon represents the world. Now, that doesn't just mean the planet, it means the whole global system of commerce, government, and materialism. Basically, everything that often pulls us away from more spiritual values.
Okay, so if Babylon is this massive global economic system, why does it get judged so harshly in the prophecy? Well, the text is very, very specific about its crimes, and they really get to the heart of the whole thing.
The source breaks it down into this threefold sin. First, there's this incredible pride. The system is personified saying, I sit as queen, like it thinks it's totally invincible. Second, there's just rampant self-indulgence. It lived luxuriously. And third, you have this insatiable greed, where merchants get unbelievably rich from all its excess. And to really paint a picture of this excess, the text gives us this long, detailed shopping list, if you will. It's a fascinating inventory that starts right at the foundations of wealth, gold and silver. And it doesn't stop there. It moves on to the ultimate symbols of status and beauty. Precious stones and pearls, things people have always desired. And then it lists the most expensive fabrics and dyes known at the time. Now, here's the key point the commentary makes. Every single one of these items is a luxury, not a necessity. This isn't about feeding people. It's a portrait of extreme, decadent materialism. And then the list ends with this one item that just stops you in your tracks. And bodies and souls of men. The source commentary is crystal clear on this. It means this global system, at its very core, ultimately profits from the exploitation, the trafficking, and the commodification of human beings themselves. It's a truly chilling conclusion to the list. Right in the middle of all this fire and brimstone prophecy, the text just pauses. It stops to deliver this really urgent warning to people who don't want to get caught up in the collapse. A voice from heaven literally cries out, "Come out of her, my people." It's a direct command to get separate from Babylon so you don't share in its sins or its punishment. But what in the world does coming out actually mean? Well, according to the source, this isn't about packing your bags and physically leaving a city. It's a spiritual warning. It's a call to resist the magnetic pull of a materialistic worldview, to stop investing your identity, your security, and your happiness in a system that's being portrayed as fundamentally corrupt and, ultimately, doomed. So next, the prophecy completely shifts perspective. It shows us the reaction of the people who were fully invested in Babylon's system. And, well, their grief is very revealing. We see three main groups mourning Babylon's fall. You've got the kings of the earth, that's the political leaders who were in on it. Then the merchants of the earth, the CEOs and business leaders who got rich from it. And finally, the shipmasters and sailors. Basically, everyone involved in the machinery of global trade. And the reason they're weeping is so telling. They aren't mourning the loss of life or the collapse of civilization. No, they're devastated because, as the text says, no one buys their merchandise anymore.
Their sorrow is completely selfish. It's all about lost profits, the bottom line.
All right, so this all builds to the prophecy's huge climax, where the text uses this powerful, unforgettable image to describe the absolute, total finality of Babylon's end.
The scene is set. A mighty angel appears, and he picks up a stone.
And we're not talking about a pebble here. The text says it's like a great millstone. You know, one of those massive, incredibly heavy stones used for grinding grain? It's immense.
And he just hurls it into the sea. The symbolism here is so clear. The fall of this system will be sudden, it will be violent, and it will be permanent. It's not going to be rebuilt or bounce back. It shall not be found anymore.
So, after all that, what's the ultimate takeaway from this ancient and, frankly, pretty terrifying vision? Well, the text gives one last, fascinating clue about the true nature of Babylon's power. The prophecy says that by your sorcery, all the nations were deceived. And this is where it gets really interesting. The source material points out that the original Greek word used there for sorcery is pharmakeia. Does that sound familiar? It's where we get our word pharmacy. It originally meant the use of drugs. The implication is that the seductive lure of materialism is like an addictive, mind-altering drug, trapping people in a false reality. And that leaves us with this one last thought to chew on. If Babylon the Great isn't just some ancient city, but a symbol for the ever-present, drug-like lure of a materialistic world system, well, then that ancient call to come out of her is just as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago. The question the source leaves us with is this: what does that look like for us right now?